Hi, I'm in Vancouver Harbour right now. I came in yesterday on an Air Canada 777 in their signature class. And I know I did this video before, but I'm going to do it more comprehensively this time, Shut up! Stitching together the videos of a couple flights, and then putting them all into one video, which this is. Hope you have a good time watching this. As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by some stupid float plane. This video will be a comprehensive look at Air Canada's Transcontinental business class, which they call Signature Class. I will format this video as a return trip from Toronto to Vancouver, just to make things easy and maintain some kind of chronological order. I'll then add footage in from a dozen or so other flights I've taken with the same products and service. I won't be detailing international Signature Class in this video, you'll have to wait for that one. Pearson International Airport is Toronto's main hub, and while the metropolitan area is serviced by a few other airports, we won't be talking about them today. Getting to Pearson is quite easy if you're commuting by car, as Toronto's road and highway system evolved in a truly North American fashion. Things get a little trickier if you're on public transit. While the Transit Authority does provide public access to the airport via a subway line and an express bus service, there really isn't anything express about this option. It takes an hour to get to the airport from downtown. A much faster alternative would be the Union Pearson Express, a train service that runs from Terminal 3 to Union Station. The latter, along with the two intermittent stops, conveniently connect you to public transit. The airport itself is split between terminals, illogically named 1 and 3. The two buildings are connected landside via a monorail. Star Alliance Airlines managed to bully everyone else out of Terminal 1 with the exception of Emirates, thus they are the sole occupants of T1 with literally everyone else relegated to Terminal 3. We'll be departing out of T1 today, so let's have a closer look at it. The building is split into three sections: domestic, international, and transborder. What's transborder, you ask? It's America. Specifically, you pre-clear US Customs and Immigration before getting on your flight, so that when you land, you're treated like a domestic flight. Other countries the US have subjugated in this fashion include the UAE and Ireland. In the domestic section, Air Canada's check-in area encompasses the last 4 aisles on the right side of the hall. Despite having countless self-check-in kiosks and baggage drop counters, there's still quite often a long line. If you have a morning flight, I would suggest that you download an extra movie to watch while you're waiting in line. On the other side of this section is a small priority check-in area. Don't be fooled though, this is not where you want to go. If you're traveling in business or have high-tier status with the airline, you would want to go to this dedicated section over here. Not only is this area very spacious, I've never encountered a lineup here, as the desks are almost always fully manned, or in this case, womaned. Passengers with status or traveling in business get this elitist priority tag on their luggage, meaning your luggage will come out before everyone else's. At the back is where you will find Air Canada Concierge. They can and will help you if you have concerns regarding any part of your flight or connection experience. Think of it as a premium service desk. After checking in and depositing your bags, you are yourself deposited right next to security and its dedicated priority lanes. I've never experienced a long wait here. I guess the high airport taxes are going somewhere. But if for some reason you do have a wait, you can go one floor down to the arrival section, and above the baggage carousels there's this cheeky secret security zone. Once you clear security, the lounge is a quick elevator right on the left. This Maple Leaf Lounge is the largest in the network. There's a ton of seating and a wide variety of magazines to read or take with you. There are 2 bar areas stocked with every manner of medium rate alcohol there is. As far as I know, this is the only domestic Maple Leaf Lounge with showers. There is an extensive business center and the buffet is mediocre, but that's completely okay because we're going to another lounge. Kind of? As the placard showed earlier, there's this thing called the Air Canada Cafe, and here it is. Wait. No, that's not it. Yeah, this is it. This is it right here. Following in the footsteps of Lufthansa, this is an alternative to the traditional lounge. It's a pretty nice cafe with the added benefit of everything being free. Everything in here is free for you to eat and drink or take with you for later consumption. There are also baristas who will make you espresso drinks and fruit juices, and a selection of hot and cold food. I've linked a video below detailing this area in full. Alright, finally, here we go. Time to get on a plane. Here's my ride to Vancouver today, a 777-300ER in the older toothpaste livery. There's about half a dozen boarding zones with all signature class passengers given zone 1. On this particular 777, business class is split into two sections, and here's my seat for today, 9K. This one and the one on the other side are, in my opinion, the best on this plane. First of all, you get 3 windows to yourself, and that is because there is no one in front of you, as there is a bulkhead instead. This gives you even more space than what is available with the other seats. The smaller rear business cabin is also cozier with only 14 passengers in here. Oftentimes when the plane isn't fully booked, this cabin remains partially or fully empty. If you're a couple traveling together, I would recommend row 8 as there are no window seats in this row, making it very private. However, as is the case with every other seat, the middle dividers do not come down. Overall, I really like these seats. Instead of leather, they went with fabric, which is not as posh, but much more comfortable and cozy, especially in bed mode. Upon boarding, you are presented with a choice of boarding drink between water, orange juice, or sparkling wine. Let's now do a comprehensive seat tour, starting with the legroom, of which there is a massive amount. You can probably start a kindergarten down here if you really wanted to. The ottoman was so far away that 181cm me had a very hard time reaching it. This might be a bulkhead seat, but the other seats have almost as much legroom as this one does. On the outboard side here is the magazine rack. And behind that, something not everyone knows about is a headphone hook. Not the best placement, but whatever, it's there. Okay, now on to the inboard side. Not much going on here. There is an armrest. Below that, a small cubbyhole into which I've deposited my bottle of water. The armrest, upholstered in leather, can be raised or lowered to add the convenience of getting out of your seat even when it's mealtime. And on the subject of mealtime, here is the tray table, which can be deployed via this latch below. It slides on its rail and stops in a few positions, and if you want to expand it, it folds out like this. It feels very solid and sturdy. I have no gripes about it apart from the fact that it's stowed in a kind of awkward position. Okay, once again onto the window side, there is a small unmovable armrest down here, and here are the seat controls. There are 2 physical buttons for the upright and lay flat presets. Otherwise, myriad controls and conveniences are available in the touchscreen. The ambiance menu allows you to adjust the overhead and footwell lights. Service gives you these 3 options to tell the crew what you want to do. And comfort adjusts the firmness of the padding of each individual part of your seat. It makes a small difference, although I feel like the firmer options are always the more comfortable ones. And finally, control allows you to adjust the pitch of each part of your seat. Everything is quite responsive and intuitive, and this also has the magic of being available in a few languages depending on the route. Next to the window, you have this massive side console thing. Let me just quickly demonstrate how large this area is. Here's me on an earlier flight having breakfast while watching the finale of Game of Thrones, and that's not even using the entire area that's available here. Here's another instance where I'm playing Fortnite on the plane, and yes, the Wi-Fi really is that good. Better yet, they filled in the space between the console and the wall, so there's no chance of you losing your phone in that gap. Inside the center console is this equally spacious cubbyhole in which we will find the media controller, a universal power outlet, and headphone jacks along with a USB port. What I like to do is take the contents of my pockets and dump them all into this cubby so they don't fall out of my pockets and into the seat. Back here is a reading light which you deploy simply by pushing it out. It also rotates a little bit. There is a quite pathetic hook for your coat, and finally I'm quite happy to announce that there are individual air nozzles. Alright, exhaustive seat tour over, it's time for the doors to close and for us to be on our way. Here's a 787-9, the type of aircraft we'll be taking on our return trip. As this was a morning flight, I'll go over breakfast. Don't worry though, lunch and dinner will be covered on the return trip. The meal service starts with a substantial hot towel. And let's take this opportunity to look at the menu. There are usually 3 breakfast options: savory, sweet, or healthy. I'd highly recommend the omelet. It is by far my favorite. The eggs are consistently done perfectly and is accompanied by an amazing tomato sauce. If that's too heavy of an option for you, I'm happy to say the fruits are always fresh and not too cold, as is the case on some other airlines. And to top it all off, Air Canada does have espresso machines on all their wide-body jets. If you're still feeling peckish, they do offer cheese plates after breakfast. Breakfast over, let's move abruptly onto the in-flight entertainment. Don't worry though, I'll cover lunch and dinner in excruciating detail on the return flight. But for now, I'm trying out the provided noise-canceling headphones. Despite the padding, they weren't that comfortable, and the noise isolation properties weren't terribly great. I still travel with my QC35s, they are extremely comfortable and the noise isolation is second to none. At over 22 inches wide, the in-flight entertainment screen is very large and can be controlled via the handset. The handset itself is very intuitive with a high-resolution touchscreen. The device is built solid but is tethered to the console. It's very responsive and the menus are easy to navigate. But by far the best feature is that when you're watching a film on the main screen, you can have the handset display the route map. In terms of content, there is an extensive selection of both new releases and curated classics. TV shows included full seasons, and there were many HBO shows in their entirety. The system featured many Canadian films and shows, as well as dramas from around the world. The system also makes full use of the entirety of the screen, with menus being intuitive and straightforward without too much clutter. The media player itself is also very responsive. Overall, the system is very good, not as amazing as United's, but close enough where no one should have any complaints. With a couple hours left to go, I decided to take a nap and use this opportunity to go over the lie flat bed. A thick duvet and mattress pad are provided. You may ask the cabin crew to make your bed for you, but I mean, I can easily do it myself, so why bother someone? This bed is pretty good in terms of space. It's very easy to get comfortable. However, the positioning of the tray table does mean sleeping on your side can get a little tight at the hips. I have spent many a nights on these beds and can safely say they're amongst the best business class beds out there. The cushioning is very generous, and with thick duvets, large pillows, and self-controlled air conditioning, it makes for a very comfortable sleep. I've once slept for 10 hours straight on a flight from Beijing to Toronto. With less than an hour to go, I decided to wake up to a cappuccino and prep one last time for my meeting. The approach into YVR is one of the most beautiful in the world regardless of which side of the plane you sit on. However, the views tend to be better in the spring than the summer. Here's Mount Woodside in March, and here she is again in July. A little bit of a difference. This video is already long enough, so let's just pretend I didn't even leave the airport and jump right back on a plane to Toronto. Here's our ride for today, a 6-month-old 787-9 Dreamliner painted in the new raccoon livery. Another reason as to why our airport taxes are so high is because seldom do big airports have bus gates. That's because it gets really cold out here in the winter. And here's my seat for today, 8A. There are a few subtle differences between these seats on the Dreamliner and the 777, and I'll go over them later. The important things, however, such as the seat width and legroom, are the same on both. These seats were introduced when Air Canada took delivery of the first Dreamliners almost 10 years ago as of the making of this video. And while that might surprise some of you, the durable materials and minimalistic finishes give it a sophisticated, timeless appeal. The screens on the 787 are a little bit smaller, although it's hardly noticeable. And down here, the magazine rack is tucked away behind this little tray with the headphone hook above it. I feel like this is a more accessible location than the one on the 777. Over here is another magazine rack, and although the footwell is narrower, it's still the same length as on the 777. The side storage compartment isn't as large as the one on the 777. And the seat control touchscreen has one more option. Under Ambiance, you have the ability to change the opacity of the windows, as this is a Dreamliner. The side consoles are also not as large as the ones on the 777, but as you can see, it's still spacious enough to accommodate my 13-inch MacBook. You do still get 2 air nozzles. And finally, you still have this lame excuse for a coat hook. I mean, I guess it's probably for safety regulations, but come on. And one last thing, on the Dreamliner, the dividers don't extend out as much, so it doesn't feel as private as it does on the 777. With all that said, I'd take a 787 over a 777 any day. The windows are not only much larger, but dimmable, and the air is much better. Once again, service on the ground started off with a welcome drink. This time I opted for the sparkling wine as I had no more work for the rest of the week. A perk of sitting in the last row, you can see the door mechanisms. But alas, the doors were closed and we were on our way. Another perk of the 787 is that the engines are so quiet you can hear me whispering. What do I want for dinner? Oh man, I'm getting really fat from eating all these airplane meals. Am I still talking to myself? I think I'm still talking to myself. You know, I keep mentioning how I think Vancouver is one of the prettiest cities on the planet. I should really make a video describing why I think it is. Maybe next year. After takeoff, the bar service usually begins with a dish of heated nuts and any drink from the menu. At this point, I've acquired a favoritism towards the Prosecco, but the Air Canada signature drink is also pretty good. I mean, it's got maple syrup. Let's have a closer look at the menu. And no, although it would be cool, it's not completely black. The first page is pretty standard. Welcome aboard, blah blah blah, thank you for spending a copious amount of money only to end up the same place as everyone else, that kind of stuff. But the second page is food, and that's what we care about. You see this guy over here? Well, he's really not that important. What are important are these signs here. This sign denotes a special dish that's more special than the other choices. It's what they call a Hawksworth signature dish, whatever that means. And while we're down here, you should know that Air Canada offers Dine on Demand, so you can demand that they dine you whenever you want. The next page is a comprehensive list of ways through which you can get completely and utterly shit-faced. Meals begin with a cold appetizer, which is accompanied on these transcon routes with a choice between white or whole wheat bread. On international routes, you get more choices in terms of bread and a small side salad. These cold dishes usually feature some type of seafood or light meat depending on the season and once again the flight. On transcontinental flights, the selection is different each week so that frequent flyers won't get sick of the repetition. Thinking about it, I cannot recall having had a bad appetizer. They have all been very fresh and agreeable. There are usually 3 or 4 choices of main courses. There's always a healthy option and a vegetarian one. There are also countless special meals you can pre-order, ranging from low sodium ones to vegan ones. I've tried a few of the Hawksworth dishes and can say that they truly are quite special. They tend to use really fresh ingredients sourced from the origin, have adventurous flavors, and are well balanced for the environment on an airplane. Following the main course, a cheese plate is offered. They pair this with a delicious port, but you can opt for any drink of your preference. You typically get 3 cheeses, differing in selection depending once again on the origin of your flight. However, you only get about 3 crackers with the cheese, which is hardly enough, so if you feel strongly about it, ask the cabin crew for more. For those of you who are still hungry after all this, there's always dessert. Typically that includes sweet pastries, cake, ice cream, fresh cookies, or fruits. Or, if you ask nicely, a combination of what I just mentioned. Usually there is a selection of dessert wines, or in this case, Baileys. Throughout the flight, a selection of chocolates, chocolate bars, candies, and chips will be available at the front of the cabin in the basket, all of which you can help yourself to. During meal times and throughout the flight, the cabin crew will also continuously come around to see if anyone wants another drink or take any other request. For a North American flight, Air Canada's food is truly top-notch. The meal service resembles more closely that of an international flight than it does a domestic one, and that's really valid because there really isn't much of a difference between transcontinental and long-haul international meals with Air Canada. Within North America, and certainly within Canada itself, there is not much competition from any other airline with regards to the service, variety, and quality of the food on board. United and Delta come close, but are not quite at the same level. Alright, you know what they say, what comes in must go out. Wait, that's not the saying I was looking for. Anyways, what I meant to do was segue into the bathroom exploration segment. And here we are, back due to popular demand. I've just walked into an airplane bathroom with a questionably large camera for your benefit and much to the curiosity of the people who saw me. As you can see, there's not too much going on here, however, it is very clean. Here's the receptacle into which they make abundantly clear you're not supposed to deposit waste apart from the waste inevitably produced by your body after the considerable amount of food you've just ingested. And here's the baby change station. And on these Dreamliners, you get a window, one with a manual shade. Overall, these bathrooms are quite spacious. You could easily fit 2 people in here, although why you would want to do that is beyond me. Oh, I guess past me wanted to have a closer look at the hand soap. It's by this company called Vitruvi. Their products are also in the International Amenity Kit, which we will look at later. Here's a face mist and a hand balm. And what this thing is, I really can't tell, and I can't be bothered to figure it out. Alright, happy? We're done here. Let's have a in-depth look at the Amenity Kits. I have both the Transcontinental one and the International one. Let's look at them both to see what the differences are. The Transcon one comes in a fabric pouch. It's not entirely substantial, but gets the job done. I wouldn't straight up throw it away, but I haven't really found any uses for them beyond the flight. The International Kit is packed in this very premium leather bag. It's made and branded by Want l'Essentiel, a company that is embracing the quintessentially Canadian trait of being undecided as to whether it wants to be English or French. The bag is actually really nice, and you can brandish it like this for added flair. The Transcontinental Kit comes with the bare necessities: socks, eye mask, a dental kit, and some earplugs. The International Kit has everything the other one does and more. In addition, the eye shade is of a higher quality, there's a cloth for your glasses or phone, and the dental kit includes mouthwash. The earplugs and the socks are pretty much the same. And finally, you get a box of Vitruvi Voyage Travel Essentials. Specifically, you get a lip balm and hand cream, and after having given them to my girlfriend for a review, she concluded that they are extremely average. You get this brochure going over the 2 companies involved in this kit. I won't be using these discount codes, so if you, the viewer, wants to, they're all yours. Although, I'm not sure if they're one-use codes. If you do end up using them, let me know how it goes. One last thing to cover, the Wi-Fi. By the time you're watching this, Wi-Fi should be available on almost every plane Air Canada operates. The connection operates on both Ku and Ka bands. For us idiots out there, it means that they use both ground stations and satellite links. Over North America, the connection is consistently great with no lag in streaming YouTube videos in 1080p. I can even get my ass kicked on Fortnite while at 35,000 feet. Flying over the Rockies can present occasional connection issues, but as a whole, the Wi-Fi is top-notch. The prices too are very reasonable and there are no data limits, although at a certain threshold your connection is throttled. On transoceanic flights, the satellite connection isn't as good as the ground-based one, so expect slower speeds. The prices though are still very good. And that brings us close to the end of this comprehensive look at Air Canada's signature class. I hope that you can live it vicariously through this film and come to your own conclusions on Canada's flag carrier. I can't help but admit that I am somewhat of a fan of Air Canada. I'm pretty high up on their loyalty scheme and have invested some of my meager earnings into their stock, so biased I may be, but for a good reason. One thing I can't show you through video is their service. I can, however, tell you that their service is great. Their cabin crew possesses a sense of professionalism found only on the most prestigious of airlines. At the same time, they're not beyond striking up a conversation and expressing a sense of humor. Overall, they seem to be quite happy working for Air Canada, and they apply that feeling to their work ethic. Of course, it's not all roses and sunshine. I've had my fair share of mean and stuck-up cabin crew, but in general, I feel like AC's flight attendants in any class are a cut above the others. 2 cuts above the American ones anyways. Alright, except for maybe Alaska. Alaska's really good. Anyways, being a country's flag carrier means representing said country to a degree. Air Canada understands what it means to be Canadian, to be bold but at the same time polite, to embrace multiculturalism and share in the myriad heritage of Canadians, to be sophisticated but humble, and finally, to turn the air conditioning all the way up so that we truly feel at home in the freezing, frigid cold. If you made it this far, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please do consider liking or subscribing, but only if you deem it worthy. And as always, safe travels. See you next time.